Welcome to More Non-Dues Revenue, a semi-monthly webinar podcast series sponsored by Chamber Marketing Partners, where we interview Chamber of Commerce leaders and visionaries to share their creative, entrepreneurial strategies for generating non-dues revenue. Catch us live twice a month or see prior Zoominars at www.morenonduesrevenue.com. In this episode, we're covering three topics: our industry roundtables replacing networking events, how one chamber, the Missoula, Montana Chamber, was able to retain a high percentage of its membership and add new members all during the pandemic. And the third will be effective selling and closing strategies from a successful membership development expert. What you'll take away from this is how to identify and create industry roundtables, the best practices for retaining members through conversation, and down-to-earth sales philosophies for dues and non-dues revenue. Our sponsor is Chamber Marketing Partners, generating substantial non-dues revenue from Chamber of Commerce publications without using a turnkey publisher. The Chamber gets total control, full financial transparency, and uses local vendors. Some chambers have seen returns up to 30% or more from their award-winning publications. Visit www.chambermarketingpartners.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. I'm your host, Ed Burzminski, President of Chamber Marketing Partners. Now let's get started. Our guest is Mark Losh, Director of Membership for the Missoula Chamber of Commerce in Montana. I asked Mark to be on the show because when he and I spoke on the phone, he had such a down-to-earth, matter-of-fact way about him. His approach to sales was just sensible, and he seemed to come from a place of genuinely providing solutions, be it for non-dues revenue or for membership. So I felt that many of us in the chamber world could learn a few things, particularly about some of the changes that his chamber has been making. So glad that you could join us, Mark.
I'm excited to be here. It was a wonderful first conversation. It was great to meet you, and any way that I can help and share some information, I'm very happy to help with my chamber brothers and sisters.
Well, sounds good. So let's get started. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your chamber, and describe your community to us so we get a good feel for who you are and what your organization is like.
Be happy to. The background picture is the view I have every day. People may know Missoula is the river that runs through it. We have about 68 to 70,000 members. The next largest town from us going west is Spokane, about 260 miles, and going east is Bozeman. So we pull people for 100 to 150 miles around that come into Missoula to do business. We have about 680 chamber members, businesses. I grew up in the farming community in Eastern Washington, and have been blessed to have owned my own business 4 separate times. I've been involved in a few startups, been involved in quite a few different industries, and have enjoyed the sales and marketing industry for almost 40 years. Our community is got a University of Montana's here, so we're a university community, a very, very large medical presence. And the IT structure and growth in Montana is making news all over the United States. We are becoming a hotbed for IT. We used to be a heavy logging industry, but that's not so much anymore. And we're finding that other businesses are kind of filling in those gaps. But we're a thriving community that's very independent.
Sounds like a thriving, growing community making a transition. So one of the things when you and I talked was very interesting is that your chamber has started to move away from networking events and going to industry roundtables. For those that are joining us, tell us what an industry roundtable is and how did your chamber decide to migrate and move in that direction?
We didn't have much choice. A year ago, networking was taken away from us. We were always a heavy networking group. We had our monthly business after hours, we call them. We're usually 250 people would come out once a month to network, engage, communicate. A lot of people only saw each other at those events. But when that happened with COVID, people were wanting to connect and wanted to be involved. And we found out that at these events, many different industries would be huddled together or they'd connect in that large group, and they lost that capability. One of the things that we focus on is we listen to our members. Have been for a long time. We survey our members a lot to find out what it is that's going on and what we can do to help. We are not experts in let's say the construction and the trades industry, which is growing very fast. We're not experts in that area, so how can we know exactly what they need? So we got a hold of a bunch of our trades and construction and said, what's happening? What's going on? What can we do to help? And they said, we'd love to have a discussion. And that's where the idea of the roundtables came from. So we set up a Zoom meeting, and only trades and construction folks could be there. And we had a roundtable with about 30 to 35 different businesses. And we talked about what is it you need. And we discovered that the permitting system and the inspection system through the county and the city was really slowing down growth of new home build and commercial building, which was affecting our problem with affordable housing, which was affecting our problem with no inventory of homes. And they've been trying for 2 years to get a meeting with the city and the county to talk about these permits. Well, because they are chamber members and because our relationship with our city and county is really, really strong, we reached out to them, say we really would like to put together a meeting so that this industry can talk to you, the city and the county, so that you can work together because you need each other. And they 100% agreed. And 10 days later, we had a meeting set up, and that meeting took place and some changes are taking. And we discovered through the roundtables that we're giving industries an opportunity to talk to other folks in that same industry about best practices, challenges, understanding that they all have the same challenges, but they didn't realize. And it just created some more tight community. And those folks are now talking to each other on a steady basis. When things open up and we can do networking events again, we will, but we're probably not going to stop the roundtables. It's just too valuable to understand exactly what our members need and want. Our focus is making quality of life in Missoula better, and that's directly related to quality of business life.
So how do you deal with the competitive businesses, though? Isn't there any kind of friction with businesses that are competitive that are on this roundtable?
We've actually found that they put that aside. Missoula's unique because we're not part of a large. You go to Everett, Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, anywhere on the I-5 corridor, there's all separate chambers, but it's all one big mass of population, a lot where you live right now. Because we're so independent, we need each other to survive. And so even though there's competition, the health of the business community is most important. And so we found that they compete with each other, but they also need each other for that industry to survive and thrive. And so I was worried about that first, but we found that they're actually coming forward and having great conversation and working together.
So let me step back a little bit about how it came about. Was your chamber doing the pivoting to online networking events through Zoom, and was that kind of just not getting a lot of traction, or what was going on there?
I know we have short window of time, so I'm going to try to keep this short. 4 or 5 years ago, we heard from our businesses that we have some serious workforce issues. So we had them define that, and that worked out to be childcare, trained workforce, housing, and growth potential. The childcare was one that really surprised us. We found out it costs more money to go to get childcare in Missoula than it does to go to the University of Montana. When a business has 25 employees and they have 3 babies are going to be born in that business that year, the odds are they're going to lose 2 employees because the cost of childcare is so high and so hard to find. We found out we had over 1,000 kiddos on a wait list before COVID. So in that process, we started really listening to our members about workforce. And then they come and said, we can't find any way to get trained employees. We can't even find trainable employees. So then we started going down that channel and working on a workforce website that maybe we can have another meeting one day and talk about that one. And then that got us connected to our industries much closer. And then they were able to start then trusting that we really did care. And they began to then share with us what our needs were. And then we said, well, we need to put these people in a room together so that we make sure we're getting all of their needs. And that was the genesis of the roundtable.
I see. Got it. So what industries are you approaching, or what kind of industry roundtables are you doing for which?
Oh, God, we've got 8 or 9 of them lined up. I have a cheat list here because I can't memorize everything. We've already done industry roundtables for our entertainment venues. We've also done for our restaurants and bars, our trades, retail. We have tech coming up next month, and then we're going into auto dealers, and then we're going to go back into retail again. And transportation is also out there. It's kind of dictated by what members are saying we want some help. So I know I keep saying it goes back to listening to our members, but that's what it is.
So, and by listening, you're calling and you're surveying your members in particular industries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. Are you monetizing these roundtables, or
No.
is it?
Well, yes, we have a sponsorship structure, and it is giving us some non-dues revenue. Our business networking events that we hold monthly have a fee involved to host, having everybody come to your business, learn about. Well, that went away a year ago, and that was a revenue that we had to replace. So the roundtables do have a sponsorship that someone pays, and they get a 5-minute introduction into the group. And we try to get sponsors that are tied to that industry, or support that industry, or do business with that industry. And so we are able to not totally replace what we lost with our networking events. That's just too much, but it has helped us recoup some of our non-dues revenue by the roundtables. And we found sponsors that are open and are ready to sponsor again. We anticipate we'll have 2 or 3 more roundtables of just the construction group because there's more to talk about. So yes, we're able to monetize that and be able to make some non-dues revenue on that.
Has the roundtable helped with membership development at all, and retention?
It has. When we do the roundtable, we invite anybody to join in that industry. So there's no chamber that has every member of an industry that's part of the chamber. So we do invite everybody, and we've been able to add members through the roundtable because they see what we're doing and that we really care. And so, yeah, the industry roundtable for construction probably brought us 7 new members within 30 days.
Do you allow sponsorship of the roundtable events by non-members?
No,
So you have to be a member to sponsor.
got to be a member to sponsor.
But a non-member could come and participate.
We want members to come and see what we're doing and see what the chamber's doing and see that we're giving back.
So any business can be a part of it. It's open to everybody. Do you then try to convert them into membership, or they can come and stay and participate as long as they want?
So the first industry roundtable we have, they're open to anyone that they can be involved. If we have a follow-up meetings, because usually there's a punch list of items that we've discovered that we need to go through and work through. Mm-hmm. So if we have a follow-up to that, those are only members involved in that. There still is the value of membership, and you have to protect the value of membership. And we've had people understand that, yes, I want to join the chamber to be involved with this. I want to know what's going on. And so it's been a great retention tool and new member tool and non-dues revenue tool.
Last question on this. What's the range of sponsorship,
Price-wise?
Price-wise.
Right now, the sponsorship is $750.
Very reasonable.
Mm-hmm. And you get at least 30 days of marketing, and you're branded on all of our publications tied to that roundtable. And any follow-up activities, then you're also still branded on it.
So quickly then, if a chamber is looking to start a roundtable, what steps should it take? In a nutshell, chamber wants to do this, it hasn't done it before, has been thinking about it. How do they identify an industry? How do they go about reaching out to those people? What are the questions? And then what kind of a process to set it all up?
We started our roundtables because we had an industry letting us know they were having issues that they couldn't solve on their own. They needed the power of one of the chamber. We then were able to, through our membership, break down and reach out to them, some by phone, some I just personally went and saw, some we send emails, say, hey, we would like to put this roundtable together. We send it through social media, through our e-blast, which is a newsletter we put out once a week. And we let everybody in the public know, hey, we're going to have an industry roundtable on the 13th of January for construction and trades. Please click here for more details. It was on our website. So we put it out in multiple ways for let people to know, gave them opportunity to sign up and let them know it's free and open to everyone. And then in the roundtable meeting itself, we then, in that process, we got a sponsor also. And then we let them know that this is open to everybody. But we would encourage you to take a look at the chamber, who we are and what we're doing, and we'd love to have your support.
My comment to all this is, what a great way for the chamber to show its relevance during a crisis and not during a crisis. Just identifying what issues certain business industries are having, taking stock of that, assessing it, identifying it, bringing those industries together as a voice, sharing information, identifying those topics, and using the voice of the chamber to affect change for that business community. I mean, there's relevance all over, written all over that.
It's a
So,
common sense thing. It's really, it seems simple to me. That's what we're supposed to do.
uh, I know we're going to have a question and answer at the end, but this question is kind of irrelevant, that's coming in. Does the roundtable have a panel, and how many people are on each panel?
It does not. We have one person who is a staffer here at the chamber named Clint Burson, who's our government affairs director. We open up the roundtable. We usually have 2 or 3 questions that we want to ask, but we really let people know ahead of time. This is a participation, and it's not putting the panel of experts as front. It's all of us getting around a round table. Everybody has equal say. And so tell us, what are some issues you're dealing with? What about, and we ask ahead of time some of the issues. We try to bring that up, and we try to just get them to where we're not talking, they are. We're just taking notes and listening.
Got it. Okay, well, questions are starting to come in. I know we're gonna, well, I'll ask you the questions because they're relevant right now. Steve Rosansky from Newport Beach is asking, you mentioned that 2 of your groups are autos and restaurants. Are there any other organizations that are representing these groups in the Missoula area, like an automobile dealers association or a restaurant association?
They all do have different associations. Many of them are on a national level, but every community is unique and different. So in Missoula, we have a group called Thrive. That's an organization of all the restaurants, and they were being hindered by the restrictions from COVID of when they could open, when they could close, all of those different things we've heard in the news. And they were just looking for ways to have the health board have a conversation with them, saying, you know, we all want to be here in 2022. So you got to help us survive 2020 and part of 21. And all we did was help put those 2 folks together so they could have a conversation. That's what turned into a roundtable with them of, here's our needs, here's our challenges, here's what we propose, here's a solution that we think would work. And we took that and then helped connect them to the health department.
Once the starts opening up and you guys are starting to do in-person events again, you may already be doing them. Are you going to continue with this as a virtual event, or are you going to maybe change it to hybrid or all in person? Have you guys thought about that?
I've thought about all of it. We don't really know what it's going to look like yet. I'd like to have it continue. I'd like to have it be face-to-face, but there is a part of being a little bit more comfortable to talk about challenges in a Zoom meeting that's a little more protective. It's, you know, we all know people can say anything online and not have to put their name on it, but in a Zoom meeting, you know who's there. But there's a little bit more, I think there's a little bit more freedom to speak out when you're not sitting right there looking at someone. So we're going to see how it plays out. We pride ourselves in not trying to pigeonhole or have blinders on everything. It's the members will let us know what they want to do. They'll help steer the direction we want to go.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. I'd actually like to ask our attendees, if you've experienced people that are on Zoom meetings and Zoom conferences, are they more likely to speak more than they do, say, at an event? Just say, just type in yes if you've experienced that. I'm actually very curious, because that's interesting. If people are in a room together, they may be more hesitant to bring something up, but if they're online on a Zoom meeting, they may speak more freely. Yes, some people are saying that yes, they've experienced that too. Okay, thank you for that about roundtables. I want to move on to your membership and your retention during the pandemic and the crisis, and that you retained a good number of your members and you added new members. What's the secret sauce?
So the reason we were able to do this is because something that happened before anybody knew anything about COVID or the pandemic. I mentioned earlier, about 3 or 4 years ago, we began to really listen to our members, and we became an initiative-driven chamber, not an event-driven chamber. Event-driven chambers, when there's no events, that can be really challenging, and many chambers have had challenges that way. But I mentioned earlier about talking to our members about workforce, and we identified 4 areas, now there's 5, that we were going to dive into deep on initiatives of our community: childcare, lack of; addiction, too much; workforce connections, employers trying to find trainable and or trained workforce; And then legislative activities. We are heavily involved in the Montana state legislation on bills and activities that affect our business and our community. So because of these areas and growth, we also, the bill grant, which would be another story, we helped bring $13 million to Missoula for infrastructure growth from the Federal Transportation Department grant. Because we do all those things, when the events started to go away, the value of what we brought to the community did not change. In fact, it became more relevant because we were the voice and we were the center to help keep sharing and promoting these things. So we don't have members, we have investors. The Missoula Chamber makes no money on city, county, state, or federal funds. We are only supported by members' dues. And so when members understand all the things we're doing in the workforce area and the roundtables and the child care and addiction and the build fund and all that, they're like, oh, no one else is doing this at this level. We're going to support you, and we're going to keep our dues coming in so that you can keep doing what you're doing. We've earned the respect and value of investors, not members. Now look at all of our members as investors. Now I treat them as investors.
Explain that a little bit more. What do you mean you treat them as investors? Tell us about that.
50% of my time is spent face to face with members, walking in the door. Hey, John, how you doing? What's new? Just want to give you an update on, and I give them a flyer of what's happening with the trades or information about workforce or information. We work as a unit very hard in keeping our members up to date and in tune with what we're doing outside of events. Events take care of themselves. They're broadcast, they're marketed, their social media, Facebook, website. But if the public doesn't know what the chamber's working on and what their successes are, then they're going to assume there aren't any. So you've got to market your chamber to your members. If I'm an investor, or if I'm managing your investment portfolio and I'm not keeping you up to date what's going on in the market or what your stocks are doing or how things are changing, someone's going to keep you up to date and you're going to leave. I don't want that to happen. So we work really hard in keeping our members up to date and information, and it's the old-fashioned way of a phone call or a face-to-face visit. I hope I answered that for you.
Yeah. Yes. Do you do, you're in Montana, you're more spread out. A lot of us are in, lockdowns. Things are just starting to open up, and people are hesitant to have it in person. Do you some of that by Zoom or video calls or phone calls?
A lot of Zoom. We're blessed to have a conference room downstairs that can hold 45 people sitting at tables. When you empty that room out during COVID, I can sit down 20 feet away from someone and have a conversation. We can sit outside and have a conversation. I can go to their place of business that they're at and working, put my mask on, social distance, be safe, but still have a face-to-face conversation so we can look each other in the eye. We also keep our members up to date through a weekly e-blast, which is the Chamber Connection email that goes out. We also have a very active Facebook page. We keep people up to date and do a lot of Facebook sharing of our members. We also have a GA report that comes out once a month that talks about what's going on with these initiatives and the Helena. And then we have a Red Coats committee and some other committees that we just really push and share information out. So we're always thinking about what do we need to tell our members today.
Yeah. How much is your base membership?
We are a tiered system. We are not based on population, and our tiers, people join the chamber based on what benefits are best going to fit them. We have 6 tiers, starts at $495 and goes up to $10,000. Right now, our tier 1 level, which is at $495 value, less than 15% of our members join at that level. At the second level, which is $695, that brings in radio spots, videos, marketing. I put together a whole marketing package that helps get your name out. At $695, we have about 35% of our members join. At the $1325 level, which even brings in more to play, relocation leads, use of the conference room, marketing, personal introductions. At $1395, about 40% of our new members are joining. We have people investing in this.
Yeah.
I can get some great marketing and you're doing all these other things. I am very happy to join at the $1,300 level to get the return on of the community.
So you mentioned a lot. Often you talked about listening, understanding a member, understanding a business and what is important to them. I want to ask you about what makes a salesperson successful. What defines a successful salesperson?
Stop selling.
What do you mean?
If I don't know what your needs, your wants are, if I don't know what your problems are, what kept you up last night, if I don't know those things, how can I help you? I can sit down and I can start telling someone about my chamber and I can go through every single tier and tell them everything. But if I don't know what their needs are, I've probably wasted most of their time. And they know that, and they know that in 5 minutes. So I try to have conversations of, tell me about yourself, where you come from, what's your business doing? Have you been involved at chamber before? What was good? What was bad? What kept you up last night? What's your three biggest issues you're going to deal with in the next 3 weeks? Direct questions to get down to what's really the challenge, and then talk about solutions. And the chamber may not be the solution. Maybe something that we offer helps, but it's hard to explain. I want to know who I'm talking to, and I want to know what your challenges are, because I can't help you if I don't.
So do you mean that sometimes when you're talking to a business, you may recommend another organization, or if it's not the right fit with the chamber, you may suggest something else?
I've had, I've had, many's not the right word. I can think off the top of my head 7 or 8 current members now that when they first came to me, they weren't ready to be in the chamber. Their business wasn't far enough along. They weren't organized enough. They didn't have a clear understanding of what they wanted to do. They didn't know who their customer was. And they would have joined the chamber and 6 months later and not seen any results, any value, not connected. They just weren't ready yet. And they come back 6 months later and they say, I'm ready now. And they were. And then they build a successful business. It's My goal is not to see how many members I can get. My goal is to develop business partners.
You mentioned when we talked that a percentage of the number of eyes we have. Can you share
Grandpa,
that with our audience?
I grew up in a farming community where a handshake was a contract. And my grandfather, he was John Wayne and Bob Hope in the same body. He always said, you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately, which is odd because I'm doing all the talking here. But yeah, it's if you listen long enough, someone will tell you what they need, what they want to have, and what they hope to have. I'm blessed because I have a lot of people who refer, hey, you need to go see Mark at the chamber and have a conversation. And so I'm at the point now, I have some raving fans. It's a good book to read if you haven't read Raving Fans.
What is it?
Um,
What is it again?
Raving Fans.
Raving fans.
It's a good book. I think it's a story about the fish markets in Seattle that throw the fish. Um, so I'm blessed I have people that come look and say, someone told me I should come and talk to you. And I say, great, let's have a conversation. You tell me your story, I'll tell you mine, and see if we're on the same page.
And when Mark and I connected on LinkedIn, he was, we just connected, and he replied to my message. I just asked him to connect, and he said, "Great, call me. I want to know about your business." And he gave me his phone number, and he was very open and very inviting, and nothing more than that. So that spurred a conversation, and that spurred him to be on board here. So, and he listened. And your email is, how do people get in touch with you, Mark?
It's very simple. It's Mark L at MissoulaChamber.com. We can put it in the chat box again, but it's Mark is my first name, Losh, Losh is my last name, and it's just Mark L at MissoulaChamber.com. You can go to the website. You can find everything I talked about on our website. It's very transparent. We are a humble nonprofit like every other chamber, but we've been blessed to be able to have some folks help us with our website. But I'd be happy to have a conversation with anybody.
So thank you for sharing all of that. Let's move on to questions and answers. I did answer or ask a few questions that were in the Q&A, and Judy Hayes is helping us in the background. Judy, do we have any questions that are coming in that we haven't already answered?
Yeah, let me just ask, have you talked about, Mark, how big your staff is? How many people and
Sure, I can share that. We have a CEO, Kim Luttrell, who's been in this chamber building on the 15th of March for 48 years, started right out of high school. Yeah, 48.
Wait, 48 years?
48 years. She started as an intern, worked her way up. She's been the CEO for almost 30 years now, grew up in the Missoula community, lives on the high road. She grew up with every influential person in this town, and is probably the most connected person, and truly is a saint, and is never, ever looking to put herself first. It's all about everybody else. Then we have an administrative assistant to her, and everybody in the chamber world knows no one has just one role. We all do everything, but tagged as administrative assistant to help her with our board writings and things like that. We have an event coordinator person, and they handle events. And when we get close to a big event, we all become event coordinators. Then I have Clint Burson, who is our government affairs director, who deals with a lot of our initiative work, our government affairs work, city and county meetings, and also helps with all of our writings and keeping us on track to where our messaging stays straight. Frank Cudilla is our CFO, and he handles all the finances for us. We run about somewhere around a $1.4 to $1.5 million budget. And then I am the humble salesperson at the chamber.
So I just want to say one thing. Kim, 48 years. Pat Clark, who's on with us now today, she's at the Los Angeles area chamber. And Pat, I believe that you celebrated 40 years at the chamber. I've never heard 48 going on to 50. Kudos to Pat and kudos to Kim. Yes, 40 years.
And Mark, of those people, how many are full-time? The ones that you
All
went
of them.
through? All full-time.
Yeah, we run 6 full-time employees.
Okay. And then I think this might have been covered, but as far as the roundtables, the industries that you've selected, can you talk about those and which ones have been more well received?
Sure. Our restaurant and bar roundtable was very successful. Our industry, trades, construction, during the pandemic, our trades and construction are blowing up, busy as can be. That was a big one. We also had a very healthy retail roundtable, and then accommodations, which are hotel, motel, restaurant, trades, event centers. That was a wonderful one. We're now getting ready to gear up a transportation. And then we have retail, health, and then education. We've got about 7 or 8 lined up, but it's not like we're determining who they are or what they're going to be. We're talking to our different industries, finding out who wants to get together and have a roundtable. I know I keep saying listen. The key, folks, just gotta listen to your members and go talk to them.
Well, I've got one question for you. If you could share, you've gone through some sales training programs. Could you mention some of the sales training programs that you've gone through in your history, in your past?
Let's see if I can remember everything. I was very fortunate that my grandfather sent me to Dale Carnegie when I was 16 years old to teach me how to be an adult, is how he put it. I was fortunate I sold a herd of Angus when I was 16 years old, became part owner of a restaurant. And that's a whole nother story about that life. Tom Hopkins, I was introduced to in 1989 at a boot camp, went back to a second boot camp in 1990. I spent a good 5 to 7 years studying how to master the art of selling, which is truly the art of communication. I know that he is still active today, doing very specific types of trainings. But and then from there, many books. The 4 Agreements made a big impact on me. A lot of Wayne Dyer information. When you change the way you look at things, what you look at changes. And then also Raving Fans. God, I can't remember any other ones right now.
That's plenty. That's quite a bit. That's a lot of reading for anybody, but that's over a lifetime of learning. Mark, I want to thank you for joining us and sharing your insights, and thank you to Judy Hayes for assisting. You've shared quite a bit of information, Mark. Very much appreciated, and I hope we've imparted some good information to our audience. I'm Ed Burzminski for Chamber Marketing Partners. Let's connect on LinkedIn and let's supercharge the non-dues revenue for your publications. If you found value in this episode of More Non-Dues Revenue, then subscribe to the videos on YouTube, listen to the podcasts on Apple, Google, and Spotify, among others, or visit morenondusrevenue.com. Stay relevant and keep on making a difference for your businesses in your community. Onward and upward, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
You're most welcome.
Any of these things true at your chamber? Has the board ever said, you've got to take the directory in-house? Do staff sometimes say, we should really just do this directory ourselves? Are turnkey publishers giving you grief? Or could your in-house publishing perform better? We're chamber marketing partners, and we turn the royalty around. Your members pay the chamber directly for advertising in their publications. We manage the project for a chamber, just like a general contractor manages building a house for you. We manage putting a business directory, community guide, relocation guide, visitor's guide, map together for you as an in-house project. We're Chamber Marketing Partners, www.chambermarketingpartners.com.